have a couple of items that are not on the agenda for action, so I thought we could go ahead and knock those out. So I'm going to start with item 4, and then when we get another person, we'll go back up to items 1, 2, and 3. Is that okay? We can get moving. Item 4 is the recommended bell schedule modifications for 2014-15. So I'm going to just ask Dr. Shaw to
Sure.
run through that, our status on
The
that.
staff has pretty much already kind of heard this, but for those who are not on staff, leadership, I should say. So we're really in a pretty good place. We did, Mr. Blackwell and I did meet with a scheduling expert and found it to be a very worthwhile meeting. We still have some decisions to make, but the two areas right now that are kind of in discussion are, can we get more faculty support, and what's it going to look like when it's done? So we have started the scheduling process for kids. It's really not that difficult to modify it depending on what schedule we end up with. It really is about getting kids electives. Their core is going to be what it is regardless. So we are waiting for an email from the district. We have to do a professional development analysis, which basically says if we decide to change the bell schedule, can we do the professional support for our teachers? The good news is we're already doing a lot of it. We're already talking about how to do unit planning, how to structure your class, things like that. Ms. Kendra, who you hear from in a minute, has actually done a lot of work with Ms. Hanson, excuse me, with the unit planning. So we're really in a good place. It's a little later than I would have liked, and we really hope to have this done by now. But now we're being told that the district will have a decision for us by the end of the month. So that's where we are.
By the end of February.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the end of February, yes, that's correct. Okay.
Is there anything that we could do to assist?
Well, I get a lot of feedback. I actually sat and talked to some kids at lunch today for a good 15 minutes about what they thought, what they heard, what the rumors were. So just continue to let me or any of the administrators know if you have any questions, concerns, comments, rumors. As soon as we get some definitive information, we'll get it out.
Do you think that advocacy with the school district about the block schedule would help?
I mean, if that's what advocacy always helps. I mean, always, I do think that our district does a good job listening to our stakeholders. So absolutely. Good question. Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Even though it's not an action item, do you still want the presentations on the seed fund request?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I
You just
think.
can't vote on it?
Right.
Okay.
So if we end up in that situation, let's figure out what to do. Let's hold on that. Because it would be ideal if we vote on it.
Okay.
So I think next we'll ask Ms. Hanson. Were there any other questions on the bell schedule? I know that was probably only news to me. But any of the rest of you have any questions about that? I'll ask Ms. Hanson to come forward. She's going to share some information about the middle years program and our upcoming evaluation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to briefly overview just the middle years program aspect of IB. I feel like it's a little bit less familiar school-wide than the diploma program, which has the testing and the college credit and all of that. So I'm just going to briefly overview that and then explain the evaluation process and give you a survey link. So what is MYP? Basically, it's grade 6 to 10 partnership with Ridgeview. All students are considered members of the IB program when they are in attendance at Ridgeview or Riverwood in grades 6 through 10. So it's student-centered, global citizen, has the learner profile characteristics that we've talked about, or that is a school-wide implementation. And then the connection to the community service, and that all subjects are equally valued. And the fundamental concepts, the idea that it's for holistic learning, whole child, communication is emphasized as well as intercultural awareness. And then MYP implemented in the classroom, just a few things that we do at our school to implement MYP is basically having the objectives coincide with CCGPS. We look at the alignment there. And then assessment criteria, each subject has rubrics made for them. and then incorporating the learner profile. Sometimes awards are given in classes for students who are knowledgeable or inquirers or risk takers. And then participating in school-wide initiatives, intercultural awareness, Hispanic Heritage Month, connecting subject areas to real world, and then letters to servicemen and women. And then something that is a big push is the personal project introduced in the 10th grade English classes. Though it's not subject specific, they can choose any subject. And then our school-wide initiative this past year has been that all students participate in the personal project. So magnet students were able to participate in fall semester this year, and then honor students will have their culmination in the spring, like usual. And then it has a real-world focus. Students are able to choose things that they really are interested in outside of the typical 8 school subjects. And then moving on to the more, interesting news is our evaluation process. So the evaluation process is done by IB, and it occurs every 5 years that the program exists. So this is our year coming up, and the purpose of the evaluation process is basically threefold. Firstly, to determine how the program is implemented at the school, and then also to identify major achievements or successes, and then also areas that need improvement as far as implementing the IB curriculum in the middle years program, grades 9 and 10. So because IB recommends for all stakeholders to be able to have a say-so and to give feedback, I just wanted to break down the process. And first of all, and this occurred last semester because it was all basically in school with subject-specific teachers, we determined assessments and rubrics and sent them off to IB. So that occurred in October, through October and November and December. And then we sent them to be evaluated, and we're in the process of receiving that back. So basically IB has people look at unit plans and assessments to make sure that teachers are assessing students correctly and paying attention to the different standards. So we're in the process of getting those back. We have not gotten all of them yet. And then we are supposed to conduct a self-evaluation through means of a survey. So that means that all stakeholders are able to participate and give feedback about the middle years program and how it's implemented. And then it'll be our job as a school to analyze survey results to determine areas of achievement and then also areas that need to be addressed. And then lastly, in May, I'll submit the survey results and where we have success and then where we need improvement. And then this will occur in the fall, 7 and 8. IB will send out site evaluators to examine our school. They would like to see people from the community interviewed, parents and students, and also teachers, and see different classrooms. They'll talk to the administrators, and they'll be at Riverwood as well as at Ridgeview. So that will occur in September, October. They have not told us the specific date yet. And the survey, basically there are 17 items, and I'll show you that in just one moment. But each question, except for the first, is rated strongly agree to strongly disagree. And basically, the school implements this item well, or the school does not implement this item well. And each question should be answered to the best of my knowledge. So I'm going to give a little bit of background information on some of the questions really briefly. But it should be taken in the sense of, to the best of my knowledge, the school does this. So here are some example questions. The school ensures that teachers and administrators receive IB recognized professional development. Well, some people may not know, so I'm just going to give you some feedback on the school paying for teachers to go to training at the Atlanta International School. That occurs every summer, as well as other teachers who are trained at various other locations. And then at least one teacher, all the way up to 5 teachers here at Riverwood, are MYP trained. So they've been to training for each subject area. And then IB requires the principal, coordinator, and at least one teacher to be certified, and all of that was accomplished this fall with our new administration. And then second question that I thought might need some explaining is the physical and virtual learning environments, facilities, resources, and specialized equipment support the implementation of the program. So specialized equipment could be the media center, other books and resources, the supplies and the technology and the engineering program, things like that. And then only two more, and then I'll show you the survey. The library and multimedia resources play a central role in the implementation of the program. In the library, they learn to become more critical researchers. Ms. Blodgett's always doing presentations about how to view sources and how to cull reliable sources from unreliable sources. And then she also is a huge help with their MYP projects. And then the school has systems in place to guide and counsel students through the program. I'm sure most of you are aware of the 9th grade parent night, 10th grade parent nights, IB nights, things like that. And the class meetings as well as the individual counselor meetings. And then lastly, the schedule or timetable provides a broad and balanced choice of subjects, including one from each of the 8 subject groups, and promotes concurrency of learning. So basically, students have these options that they take, which of course coincide with the Georgia graduation requirements for high school. So math, English, social studies, science, and foreign language, and PE of course is required in 10th grade, as well as health. And concurrency of learning just means no large gaps in the subject. For example, skipping semesters of math and then taking it over again. Of course, we don't allow that to happen as far as we can help it. And then here is the survey link. When I click on it, it's going to say that I already took the survey, so I X'd out of it, and I can just show you, here it is, and basically the only required question is the first, so the word that best describes you. And we'd like to put the PowerPoint as well as the survey link on the website. And that is all.
That is all?
That is all.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
So what happens if we, is this like a yes/no thing where we have to be, is it like an accreditation?
Somewhat like that. This is the first time we've been through the process as far as in school with MYP, and they have successfully been through the process with the diploma program. But I was able to talk to the head MYP person when I went to training in Los Angeles about the evaluation process, and essentially they're probably not going to just say, no, we're not completing the program requirements, because we are completing many of them. So they will more than likely give us areas where they don't believe we're completing it to the best of our ability as a school. So they'll give us items per standard that they have where we need to improve. Hopefully they'll also give us commendations of areas where we're doing well.
So as a parent or a student, what's the first thing that I would notice about the evaluation process?
Well, I hope that in the fall semester, people are going to be more aware of MYP, and as that semester approaches the end of this semester, I think the students are more aware of it. Like I said, with the personal project being in the magnet classes, now the magnet students are much more aware that they are MYP students, and it's not just for the people who are, take all of the difficult classes. And then in the fall, I think they will notice that there will be people in their classrooms and all of that during the
That's
visit.
when there'll be observations and a survey.
Yes. Well, the survey will launch now because I have to analyze the results and then send it to them, and then that's when they will analyze it when they come and look at our school. Basically to see that our self-assessment reflects their assessment as well.
So what else is on the survey besides those 4 questions?
There are 17, I think. So,
So do we all answer the same question?
and it'll differentiate the data based on who you are. And we'll be able to send that in based on the different stakeholder groups.
So I don't see a don't know category.
No. I figured community member might be in the don't know
No,
category.
no, I mean all the other questions.
Oh, yeah. Well, I also made them not required. None of them are actually required except the first question.
I'm just wondering, I'm looking at those questions and quite frankly, a lot of them I wouldn't feel qualified to answer.
Yeah, that is why I had the PowerPoint information so that people could look to the PowerPoint information to get the knowledge that they need. Would you prefer that there be maybe a, I don't know, button?
I'm thinking that might be best because I don't know how attentive to the information you're sharing the
Right.
general community is going to be.
Right.
And I would hate for there not to be a don't know category and so people are just kind of guessing and then that's reflected on your results. I don't know what the others of you think about that point.
Well, yeah, I see your point. I agree.
Neutral does kind of get you out of, if you don't know, at least you don't have to take a wild guess.
Yeah.
For truly, I mean, I'm not neutral, I have no clue.
They might not know to skip it.
Right, I'm just concerned if oftentimes people don't know that I can just skip it, and so they might put a response that's, they're just guessing, particularly the students.
Right.
Concerns me.
And I think that will probably help you as well to see what areas people don't understand that maybe
Right.
you need to work on to
Yeah.
educate.
That
Of
would be
course.
data for you that we don't know.
Yeah.
That's a topic.
Yeah, that was exactly so the button that says no basis for judgment,
Yes.
that'll probably send a message to you and to IB as an area where we might be.
Is that an option, Ms. Hanson? Are
It's
you
not an
allowed-
option on
Yeah,
the
see, these
survey.
were given to us by IB.
So that's why I'm not sure what to do about it, but
Okay.
I could definitely put something on there like skip question, in the instructions if you are unaware.
Okay, so I didn't realize that this was something they gave us. So
It
yes,
is, but I'm just not sure how much I can change their questions is essentially why I'm having the quandary right now.
Right, my guess is you can't
Mhm.
change the answer category. So then in that case, I think the suggestion is good, just to state in the instructions.
Right,
If you don't have information to answer a question, just go on to the next question.
okay.
Is there anyone you could contact to find out if it's okay if you just add that?
Yeah, basically, I can find out, but I'm thinking that you're not allowed to change it because they're very strict about things.
So I have no.
They're very strict about it being shared with the public, even though the public may not be privy to a lot of this information, which is part of the reason that I'm here.
Okay, well, I think your idea is a closer solution than.
Okay. Okay, I can definitely do that.
And then are you planning to share this information with the students and the community at large?
Yes, so I'm going to gather a group of student body officers and club presidents, sort of like Mr. Blackwell did with the schedule, and then guide them basically in the same process as I've presented it here, so that they can take the survey, and they oftentimes are more involved in the school, being that they're club presidents and student body officers, so they may be able to better answer some of these questions. And then I'll put it on the website. After I presented it here, present it to the staff and those students, and then I'll open it up on the website.
More questions? Yes. This is a good opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we now have a quorum, so I'm going to officially call the meeting to order, and we will go back to item 1, which is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, and then the next item is the approval of the January 14th minutes, which were posted on Dropbox for everyone to review. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? the minutes? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Great. So our next item are the seed fund requests, and Dr. Shaw, why don't I turn it over to you and you can introduce the team?
Sure. So just for the follow-up, the seed fund request, as a cohort 1 school, this is money that's made available to us. And there is a competitive process, I guess is the best way to do it. We do have to have these presentations ready to go by February 10th, I think is the deadline, or at least send this information up to the district. So there are really 2 seed fund proposals that we've talked about as a staff and as a leadership team, and I'm going to let the 2 people who kind of spearheaded these go first. Anyone of you want to fight over it? Which one goes first?
Go ahead, Dr.
All right, Dr. Hopkins will start with 1, and then Mr. Amica.
We've been talking about the strategic plan and some of the RFFs regarding international service learning. And so this is one of the areas where we want to ask for funds to initiate this and get it off the ground so that we can add a dimension to what we do here at Riverwood High. And in doing that, we hope to have some degree of faithfulness to our strategic plan. And give these kids a wonderful experience of experiential learning. So there are a series of forms that are part of this process, and one of the things that we had to do was put together an executive summary, the narrative that will be part of the presentation. So this is a sketch of what I've done with that. I did not get a chance to, on number 5, put our strategic plan, but that is a matter of copying and pasting, because we've already talked about the strategic plan and how this kind of program fits in with that. So it's not as if that part's a mystery, we just have to look at it. But we've been talking about this a little bit, and this is one of the, you have an itinerary here from one of the companies that we're looking at working this program through. And what this would involve, and this would be for next spring break. This has an itinerary, and we see what the service learning component is. They're going to be working on stabilizing some areas where erosion is occurring along the coastline. And then they've got some other excursions to go along with that. So I don't know that I want to read this, but I'm not sure of a better way to talk about it than simply reading it. So here's the concept, and any feedback, I'm happy to make notes on this and try to make corrections, deletions, whatever else based on your feedback. So here goes. In 1996, Atlantans were quickly coming to realize what was involved in being an international city. Forward-thinking leaders in the Fulton County school system latched onto the idea of what being an international city required from its residents. Developing students who could navigate this changing landscape resulted in the initiation of Riverwood as one of the county's magnet schools, promoting international studies. Our school's focus on international study requires that students take world language and social studies courses that exceed Georgia graduation requirements. While we are the only school in the county to offer the academically rigorous and world-recognized International Baccalaureate Diploma program, we have limitations that restrict us as a school to do much in the way of fostering international understanding beyond our walls. It is time to change this. It's time to offer students the opportunity to experience, to touch, and to be touched by the power of human interaction that transcends the comfort zone of many of our students. It is time to open the world to our students through an international Service Learning Travel Program. In the pilot year of this program, we will offer this opportunity to 11th and 12th grade IB Diploma Program candidates. This highly motivated, culturally diverse group of young people have chosen to take on the most rigorous program of study offered at our school. In addition to being the top scholars in the school, they also come from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds and are dedicated to their families, school, and the community. Inside of our building, these students are typically the busiest students at our school. Beside the hours spent on schoolwork, they are often the captains of their sports teams, have leadership roles in clubs and on the stage, participate in community service, and some of them even hold part-time jobs. Because of the nature of their lives, their varied socioeconomic backgrounds, and trying to save money for university, these students have no time to fundraise. By allowing them to continue to focus on their studies and enhance our school and community, you can help enrich their lives in a way that they have not experienced before. It is through this type of experiential education that truly deep, meaningful, and lasting learning occurs. Beyond our own community, this International Service Learning Program fosters experiential learning through the power of shared experience. Shared experience is at the heart of creating a better world through intercultural exchange, which leads to international understanding. So, much like the program started by Senator Fulbright in 1946 to engender mutual understanding, this program seeks to do the same. By offering this program, members of our student body will hear about the experience these students have had through student-led post-travel presentations and casual conversation. These presentations and the incentives to travel abroad will help students understand the benefits of our international studies program and likely boost enrollment in more challenging academic courses. Some of the difficulty will be expanding the program to the broader student population. In order to bring the benefits of this program to more of our students, new sources of outside funding will need to be secured. And 5, I already mentioned the strategic plan. And then number 6, students have been introduced to the idea of the International Service Learning Project to take place over this 2015 spring break, and it was received with great enthusiasm. Because of such enthusiasm, this program could potentially include the entirety of our IB Diploma Program candidates, though I don't think it will, but that looks like it might be around 105 next year. Time will be spent working alongside the locals on a variety of service initiatives, including but not limited to community improvement construction projects, teaching English through recreational activities, intercultural exchange, and green initiatives. Each project is designed in partnership with community leaders. Additionally, each service initiative will be covered with a group discussion on service, cultural immersion, global citizenship, and other topics related to global engagement.
All right, can we get copies for Bruce?
Yes.
While that's going on, any questions or comments about this request for flexibility, which does require our votes? Is there a dollar amount associated with it?
Well, and this is one of the companies, and there on the last page is price, and so it's $26.30 per student.
Or do we have to submit an amount that we're asking for?
I believe that we do, and that's where
Is
we
there a
ask for the
range?
whole thing.
Is there a range? Like, do the guidelines have a range, like,
There-
grants will be given between
No, they don't.
X and Y amounts?
They don't. So that's the discussion we've had, is how much do we ask for? And what we've kind of thought, and certainly wanted to open up for discussion is, if we take X amount of kids, it'll cost times with, do we go ahead and just ask for the whole amount? And my recommendation, I think Dr. Copies agrees, is to go ahead and do it, ask for the whole amount, and see what we get.
So how many students at $2,600 would we be asking?
Well, so if we've got approximately 105 in the diploma program next year, multiply that out, and it's
first thing we can get told is no.
I haven't actually,
Say 105 times 2,600 or?
yeah, sometimes 2,600.
And then our thought also is, you know, if there's, let's say they come up with half of it, then there's an amount they have to fundraise. Maybe there's people in the community, businesses that could supplement that. So even if the seed fund money doesn't take care of all of it, which we hope it will, even if it take care of a large portion, if they approve this, there's still what I think a great opportunity for.
So it might be wise to say something like, you know, we're requesting this amount to fully support all of our students, but would appreciate, you know, if funds do not allow, we will make our efforts to make up. I would want them to say no, if they don't have 26,000, but they have 20. So I don't know how we word that. Without having to say, well, then give us 20.
Let's do the math again. It's, how
Is it
many
two?
kids?
So we think maybe 105 kids.
200 and something thousand
Yeah,
dollars,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah, okay. Right, we're looking for 200.
$206,000.
Is that what, again?
You multiply it by 100.
Yeah.
And so I'm just worried that given the money they have and the number of schools, that's a hefty price tag for a one-time experience, although I
Well-
know they've said they want things that are.
They do, and from what we understand, what we've been told, and Crystal has met with us, is other schools are asking for facilities and technology, and I mean, it was hundreds of thousands, so we kind of thought we're in the ballpark a little bit. But to your point, you know, I see your point, is if they say no, and then, you know, we just want to make the point that even if we get a portion, I guess what you're saying, Martha, is we appreciate whatever we get, I guess,
And I would say, the other side, and I understand that strategy completely, the other side is, if you give them the inkling
Yeah, that
that
we could do with
you
less.
can do
Then
without,
we're gonna get
they're
less.
gonna go for that option.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm like trying to raise sponsor money or things like that, it's like my attitude is always ask for the highest level, let them say no, and then maybe come back and say, well, we think we can raise 50 grand.
Yeah,
Does that
I
help?
agree, you're right, that makes more sense. I did have one other thought under the student achievement section, which I think is my guess would be, that's probably gonna be a key thing that they're looking at. It seems like we could strengthen that by talking about the importance of having international experience to career success in today's economy. So you talk about the students coming back and sharing with other students, but I think there might be more we could say about the students who make the trip and the
So be more explicit about.
the academic
that
benefits
connection.
for them, and particularly some of them who might not otherwise have that sort of opportunity. It might open doors to additional colleges that might consider them, and it would be experience that would help them in securing. I think there's, I mean, I know I've heard business leaders say this, but maybe you can find some data on it, that one of the things they look for when they're hiring now, particularly people right out of college, is that they have some real international experience, because that's such an asset in today's economy. So something along those lines, I think would make that part a little bit more compelling. Because the only downside I see to this one is, unlike a technology lab or some sort of infrastructure, once these students move on, the benefit moves with them. You're not leaving a legacy at the school as you would be if you were buying equipment. So I think making the point that.
Which I agree, but that's really what education is about.
I know, but you don't say
Beyond-
that.
Beyond the physical plan, I mean, that's what all our kids.
Right, so I think you need to make, I know you have it in your head, but you need to make the case on here, for people who are reading it.
Right.
You don't want them to say, oh, we're sending 100 kids on this junket to Costa Rica. It's really about giving them opportunity and their achievement and potential growth opportunities that they won't have if they didn't have this. So I just be more explicit about that. And then also, if there's anything that you can put in there that strengthens the legacy to the school, just, I know you say it. I don't know what that would be like, but.
I guess I'm not following on that.
So you talk about they're gonna come back and share with the other students,
Mhm.
but maybe if we could be a little bit more explicit about what they're gonna do, or
I have ideas.
how that would happen.
Like a program that we'll put on, so
And I think that's for you all to think through, and you probably already thought about it.
Yeah, well, that's the post-travel presentations. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of talk at home, but there would be a formal night where we come back and share the experience, slides, and all sorts of things to talk about what was gained.
So I think if you could just enhance what you wrote in here,
And
more of that.
what about, what about while they're there? Is there any experience real time that they could be sharing with the school or, just
Blogging,
have
tweeting.
that, that's kids dealing, what's happening right now?
Right. Yeah.
That might be something
We
to
could
add.
certainly.
Video journal or something.
Right,
Yeah.
word through,
Yeah, just
while they're texting their friends and testing.
I assume, yeah, right, exactly.
And that will happen during the school year?
But it would be great to get a
Right
live
next
video
year.
feed
That's- yeah, I
from
think
sort of the
that's a-
jungle or something, you know.
I just think the more we can play up the academic benefit to the students who are going and the students back at the school. And again, I don't mean to indicate you didn't plan to do that or hadn't already thought it through. I just think we shouldn't assume that people reading this or
Clarify it.
are gonna understand that.
Yeah.
Like a live shot of you being lowered down into the volcano.
Right, yeah.
All the kids in Destin cheer. Yay, everyone's talking about this. Okay. Anything else about this one? Should we vote on them separately or or together?
Well, my thought is since there's a chance they could reject one and keep the other, right? Or they're not voting on it collectively, or they're not making a collective decision at the district level, so maybe we should vote.
Vote on separate. Okay, so can I have a motion to submit the request for flexibility for the international experience with the modifications that we've discussed for seed funding?
I can make that motion to submit the things that we discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On to proposal 2.
Mr. Amica?
All right, the other initiative is almost on the opposite end of what we're asking for, which is something very similar that a lot of schools in Fulton County and among the state has, which is a recovery program. What we have proposed here is a recovery program for students who have earned a final average of 65 to 69 in their core classes. I will want to point out real quickly that at the very bottom, it reads, students must remain at their chosen recovery session time and location for the remainder of the program. Initially, when we came up with this idea, what we looked at as far as the summer was coming up with a session from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and also from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. After some more discussion, we decided that it'd just be best to have it just one time, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So I do need to make that change right there. This will be 1 week, 10 hours together, 10 hours full of focused remediation. Basically what we've seen is the reason we decided to come up with 65 to 69 is that our academics have changed. It's more challenging for some of our students now. Some of them are almost there, but they haven't quite made that hump. So you ask them, okay, are you gonna go to summer school? A lot of the reasons they're not going to summer school is mainly financial. And also they say, okay, I'm only a couple of points away. Why am I spending the whole summer there for a couple of points? So if we can focus in on those things that they were missing on, 10 hours, 1 full week, and remediate those standards that they missed out on, and then give them that making sure that they earn that passing grade of 70. And now what we're doing there, we're keeping that student involved, we're keeping him with him or her with their graduating cohort, because what they do, if they miss that summer school program, then they're expecting to come back that next school year and try to retake that class. But as I try to explain to many of our students, you're not first in line for that class anymore. Now you're second or third, and the domino effect of failing begins. If you look at your third handout, that's our data wall. We've started displaying those around the school. If you look, sadly, our graduation rate is going down, but our students are still here. They're still here. And with that frustration of not being with my class and not graduating, those students who are away from 68 to 69, more frustration, now it turns into 58s, 45s, 43s. And like I said, the frustration is there. But what we have here, if we can establish a recovery program, a very intense recovery program, you cannot be late. You have to be there on time. You cannot miss any of the sessions. You have to do all the work. Those things have to be required and they have to be mandated. And what makes this one different from other recovery programs that I've seen in Fulton and sometimes in the state is that we all know here at Riverwood we have a diverse group. A lot of our students, a lot of our teachers come from the south end of the county, as was very well documented last week. So we have spoken to the principal of McLaren High School. It's in the south end of the county. It also has access to public transportation, which is very nearby. Those students, unlike going to a typical summer school with unfamiliar setting, unfamiliar teachers, and sadly, I hate to say it, sometimes turns into a social setting. Now we can have some of our teachers there for 10 hours, for 1 week. They can have access to it because they may not have availability to come all the way to Riverwood, because many of them come, via travel from the school bus. We can have our teachers there, we can have our clerk there, we can have an administrator there, focused in on those students. And at the same time, our students here within our community have that same session going on here at Riverwood collectively, and we can move forward all together as one. Instead of having one group move forward and the other group not. And like I said before, it's not necessarily new because a lot of schools do the program. It is new to the part because it is separate, but it's still the same. One of the areas, and I'm just going to piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Compton said, one of the areas that we're looking at with our strategic plan is academic remediation. Classes such as math support have almost become the norm now. And this right here is giving our students, just like I said, another indication that we're reaching out to them. It's not for that teacher who says, okay, you was a good kid, and find a little extra credit and give you those 2 points. That's not really helping you. That is not helping you. Eventually, that extra credit is going to be exposed. It's going to be exposed. So we have that focus remediation, that focus in the drilling into those students what they're missing. What we're doing, we're strengthening them, we're getting them ready for the next level, and we're moving forward and we're keeping them with their cohort. Just look for it here. We're going to just flip over to the back for question number 7. Well, what I looked at here was just some of the classes, just in general, our English classes, our science, social studies, and math. That's 12 classes. Now, we also thought about the process of saying, okay, we'll get one English teacher, but at the same time, you may have somebody in 9th lit, you may have somebody in American lit, and as easier as that would be for us, it does not help that student. And sometimes we do have to take the harder roles just to help the student. So for a class of 9th lit and it's just 10 people there, I believe that'll be a lot better than to have 30 people just in an English class and 10 9th lit, 11 American lit, 5 world lit. So that's the reason we broke it down into different sections on that. One for professional assistant, mainly for clerical staff, and the good part about this is the administrators will already be under contract, so there's no need to pay us.
Can you explain, I'm not following your numbers here. 24 teachers plus 2 professional assistants, times 728.
Did I do that math? I just was typing. 26, that's 28. I believe that was our base.
So is that a day, 728 a day, or what is that, 728?
Yeah. 728.
For 10 days?
Yes. No, 5 days.
5 days, I'm sorry.
I missed my math on that.
All right, so
And what are materials? What,
Materials, Al was speaking to some of the teachers, and some of the things may need, paper, some may need, they bring some books, things of that nature.
and it's how long is the session?
It'll be 1 week, June 9th through June 13th.
But
We
each
don't-
day is
Each day is 2 hours.
2 hours.
We don't want to look as far as going deeply into the summer.
Do you think you're going to have teachers that, so a teacher would come from 8 to 10 every day that week?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much would we pay that teacher then for the
It'll
week?
be $28 an hour. Did I miss all my?
5 times, well,
Okay, so
this
28
is,
times 12, so
Okay, I missed that.
$2,800.
oh, okay, not 28 per day.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's just make sure the math is right, in terms of what we need to be asking for. Well, I love this idea. I think that this is gonna make a huge difference.
Well, and let me clarify one thing too. The idea here is not to reteach the course, and I think Mr. Gammon did a good job explaining that. The idea is that, you know, if Dr. Copies there fails 9th Lit with a 68, his 9th Lit teacher says these are the standards that he did not do well on. The teacher teaching these sessions remediates that student on those standards using either coach books, USA test prep, direct instruction. They take an assessment. Once they've mastered those standards, they get the 70, no higher than a 70. So we're not reteaching the course, and that's another benefit to not having to do summer school, is if the kids have already shown mastery on certain standards, why hammer it with them again? Teach them what they missed, and that's why it's only 65 to 69.
Would the cost, the pay for the professional assistants be the same?
It would, $28.
Okay, and you said for 5 days.
Yeah.
So 2 hours a day for X amount of employees.
Um,
What'd you come up with, Ms. Parker?
1,344.
That's how it's for that.
Yeah.
Times 5, so
Times
that's,
But I only did for, well, I didn't do times 5. That's 6,720, but I didn't add in the 2 professional assistants yet.
So, what happens if they fail first semester?
They fail. Most schools do this between each semester. We're on the tail end of it right now, so the way I see this evolving is that if this is approved, next year we'll do it at the end of fall and we'll do it at the end of spring. Right now, we're asking for fall ahead of spring just to catch up. So if they had a 68 in the fall semester, they would be eligible.
And when would we run it,
When we run what?
the program?
For next school year, if we did this?
Here's where I'm going, which I don't have a good answer for.
Okay.
But if you fail first semester chemistry,
Yes, ma'am.
what we do is we put you in second semester chemistry, and you never remediate what you lost in first semester chemistry. So it would be ideal if somewhere between first and second semester we could do this. That's nice for me to say, but with what teacher is going to want to come during the 2 weeks between first and second semester to offer the program. But if there was something that we could do after school, so that they didn't have to get all the way to the summer to remediate what they missed in the first semester, which is going to impact their success in the second semester.
That's what we see, that's what we see evolving to for next year.
we were talking about that for the end of first, or during
Right.
the first semester next year.
So what I'm wondering is, since this is our opportunity to ask for funding, can't we roll that together? Can't we go ahead
And start looking for next year for.
and just to ask for both? Ask for summer
And
and,
fall.
For the fall.
yes.
Okay. And still do with the 10 hours, you think that is sufficient?
I think so, except you would do it after school.
I'll do that at school, it'd be a lot, it'd be stretched out.
You could have an hour a day for 2 weeks.
And for, after school, it could just be at one site, because we still have the school.
Still have
We
transportation.
have transportation.
Plus, those last 2 days of finals, we'll get out early so we can do something then.
ask a quick question, and this may be in here, I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but numbers of individuals expected to serve, did I miss that?
That's the trick.
Yeah, that is the truth.
Because with 24 teachers and 2 professional assistants, what is your target for the 7280? How many? Do
Well-
we have any idea?
Well, the thought is that we would take that last progress report. I'm sorry, you
No.
answered. Shut up. No, shut up. Go ahead, it's your baby, go ahead.
Following Dr. Schultz. Then we will look at that last project report. And also with this, for this model, for this summer, class sizes may not be the same because we have here, so we really want some different class. So I'm thinking, we'll not like to have more than 10 class, but I don't think all classes will have that high.
All right, and this may have come up too. Is this the total cost for the program, or is McLaren chipping in equal amounts for their students, or are we
No,
funding
no,
the program?
We're just using the building, we have nothing to do with it.
Well, I thought you said McLaren students, did I?
No, we're
misunderstand
using
that?
just the building.
Oh, the
Just
building,
the building.
okay, all right. Okay.
So one question that's asked here that we didn't answer is how we would sustain this after the seed funding. Any thoughts about, you could say we'll ask the foundation for support, or the PTA for support, or seek grant funding, or, but this is one-time money, so I
Yeah.
think how we would continue to support it might be a question. Well, it is a question that we didn't answer.
Oh, if you go away, I'm past the whole.
Yeah, the goal is for it to go away.
That's the goal, I wanted to end.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer off the top of the head, you know, we had actually, I mean, I will say this, and I don't know if you, I should say this really in public, if we don't get approved for this, we're gonna find the money anyway, because we believe it's important.
Don't tell them that.
No,
but-
that's the part that I didn't, right.
But I think what we could say is something like, if we have, here's what I would suggest you say.
Yes, ma'am.
As a former grant maker.
Right.
The seed money will allow us to prove the success of this program model. And with that data on our results, we will be able to secure ongoing private funding from other, from the Riverwood Foundation and other funders. So basically, if they give us the money to get to launch it, and then we have data to show that it works, then we'll be able to generate additional revenue. That's my proposal.
One more time.
So
Okay, other questions?
Who all will be included in this group? Is it any child that has this grade? So even students with disabilities? Of course. I just wonder, you know, because they have to, you know, there may be some legalities and all those things that we have to look into. I'm not quite sure, but over the, with it being over the summer, there may need to be special ed teachers present or whatever. I'm not quite sure, but I just think that may be something that you might want to look into.
I thought for remediation,
I don't know.
we can check on it.
Right,
We'll check on it.
yeah.
I don't think legally you can exclude them.
No, of course
No.
not.
We would have to have the accommodations.
What happens when they go to summer school?
Hmm?
What happens when
It's been years since I taught summer school. We didn't
Is there,
give accommodations to summer school, that was years ago, so. I don't, do they now? Do they, in full summer school, that the district does? Do they have all the, I'm sure they have testing accommodations, but they have like team talk and all that.
Well, it depends, there's extended school year, that's one thing,
Well,
but
that's
there's,
different.
and then there's summer school, so I'm not quite sure what they do
I'm
in
not
summer school.
I know we do testing accommodations,
Mhm.
but I don't know about instruction. But we can find out, we'll find out.
Right,
We'll
that's
find
the
out.
only reason I'm mentioning.
Yes, ma'am, no, I'm glad you brought that up.
It's my comment is that, I mean, I'm very supportive of anything that improves student achievement, motivates them to learn more, and obviously, gets them graduate. My concern would be, because it's always in the details, if there are schools that have done this and done this successfully, you know, I would urge you to really talk to them about the logistics of how this happened and how they did it. What we don't want to do is just say, show up for these few days and I'll raise your grade, you know. And if it really truly is an extra credit project, which I like extra credit projects, and it's something that really shows that this person, this student has grasped more and has taken it seriously and deserves extra credit, then I think that's great. But I have this fear that, that it's gonna be tough to implement those details to make sure that kids are accounted. On the other side of that is flexibility. I don't wanna penalize the child who's gotten a summer job and needs to work and contributes to his family and can't be there for this time period. So is there something in between having to show up in class for 2 hours every day? Is there something where there's an alternative that we can get the same results? Is there a project? Is there a showing up for
Some
3 days
schools
for
do a
longer
virtual,
period of time?
remediation program. It was our thought that, it'd be more beneficial if they, if actual teacher was there, versus the virtual, learning. Also, from talking to some schools, people that they say the virtual aspect, some students may go on a vacation and forgot to log in or forgot to complete that assignment. So it's more of an accountability concept. It's something I also talked about was when we were looking at having an 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 1 to 3, give some of that flexibility if I have to keep my younger brother or sister or if I do have a job. So that was something that we did bring up as well. So yes, I do understand the flexibility with it. But at the same time, it's almost like a commitment that we're asking them to do.
Right. And if we know these kids are in that zone, that 65 to 70 zone, I mean, how many, I guess going to the point of how many kids is this really going to impact? But is there anything we can do that last week of school that, teachers are still here for 3 or 4 days after school ends? Is there any kind of intense half-day thing we can do to get the same?
Well, I'll tackle that for a minute. I think, I am not a fan of extra credit, and I want to be careful that we're not talking about extra credit here. I think the kids need to learn the standards, and that's what we've been talking about this school year with our staff. So the first thing we wanted to do, and Mr. Amick alluded to this, is pass the course. The other thing with asking teachers, that last week is hectic for them. Final exams, projects coming in, trying to get things wrapped up. So to ask them to say, oh, by the way, we want you to do this, I think that's a lot on them. Having been in the classroom myself many years, that last week is just trying to catch up many times. So, I don't know. Now, also to your earlier point, sir, we did steal a lot of this from Kell, Pope, Banneker, Tri-Cities. So we did Langston Hughes. So we have talked to some other principals, and that's why, I want to be clear, it's not extra credit. This is a teacher saying, you didn't learn these 3 things, or you didn't demonstrate mastery in these things. Demonstrate mastery, then we'll give you the credit for the course.
Right.
So it's not,
Yeah, I guess.
it's not make a shoebox diorama and then you get.
When I think of extra credit, I think of something that a student has to do that truly demonstrates
Yes, sir.
that they've learned more, contributed more, made the effort, and has mastered what the class is about. That, to me,
Yes, sir.
Why
not
don't-
writing your name
Yeah,
in cursive.
I think what we're talking about is if we can approve this as the seed fund, which we may not even get, and run this for a year, and then we can learn, were there students that weren't able to come because of the time, or transportation, or other issues, and we can look at it. But I also, one of the things I like about what we've talked about is if we experiment with during the summer and the after school, then we can see if one of those models maybe, works better than the other. Because there's no reason, well, I'll get into that now. All right, any other comments, questions?
Is this the money that goes with the strategic plan grant? Is that what we're talking about?
Pretty much, yes.
And Jeremy gave me this other international proposal. We already talked about it, I guess. And did y'all put dollars on it? What were the dollars on that? And did anybody put any dollars on that one? Per student?
Well, I see you've written on your,
$273,000 if you send 105 students, which.
which I don't think we will.
Right, but is there an amount you're requesting out of this to fund? Like X number of students? Because ultimately, I'm going back to what we were told about the availability of the funding that Riverwood had access to, and the number I remember is $100,000.
Opie's shaking his head.
No, I don't remember.
I don't know exactly, but
When she
I
was
wanna
here
say
and presented the
that the
funding.
big pot is something, am I wrong here? Something 1.8
When we met with
million?
her last week, I thought she said, ask for the moon. I mean, that was kind of the impression I got, that there wasn't really a cap per school. Am I
No,
wrong?
it wasn't a cap, but she said based on the first cohort and the money that was available, Riverwood would have a shot at up to $100,000 or more. That's what I recall in the meeting when she talked about the grant funding available. So if that's the case, and we have that kind of access to that kind of pot of money, and I don't know what the answer is, but clearly $7,200 is a drop in the bucket, you know. We can fund a lot of international scholarships, or we could do something a lot bigger. So do we really know what, and she clearly said in her presentation, first cohort, because I asked specifically, what would be the average per school grant availability of funding? And the number she used was $100,000.
So I'm not.
You don't know the
what are you-
question?
No, what are you suggesting?
The question is, if this is the same pot of money we're talking about.
It is.
Then I think before we can approve individual things and we say we want to go for $100,000 worth of funding to fund some of these
It
initiatives.
doesn't work that way. There's a pot, I think she did the math and divided it, but one school could get $1 million and another school could get $10,000. Each application is reviewed on its own merits. It's not
Okay,
like
so
there's
we
an
would
amount
have 2 or
set.
3 applications for seed money.
We have 2.
Right,
We have 2 that we're being asked to approve, and this is it, because they have to be submitted Tuesday.
right.
So Martha, what you're saying is if we had 10 applications, our 10 would be considered against the other 30 from other schools, like they were individuals. So like, well.
Theoretically,
exaggeration.
I'm not saying they're gonna fund 30s from all of our 30 and none of anybody else's, but I don't think we should limit our requests based on some suggested average amount that's out there. 'Cause we could
No,
get-
I wasn't suggesting limiting it. I was suggesting shooting higher, but, you know, that's my fundraising hat I've got on.
Well, we already decided, we voted on the one,
On this one,
on the international one, and we decided to ask for the entire amount.
the 273. Oh,
Whatever
okay.
that comes out to be.
All right,
And
okay.
then I think on this one, we increased it by saying, let's not just ask for a summer program, but let's also ask for a second semester remediation program, so whatever that number comes up to be.
Okay,
So those would be our 2 requests.
okay.
But you don't think asking for the international hurts our chances of getting the grant for this?
I don't think so. I think if somebody
They're
had
not
to.
gonna go, well, we gotta, we don't
I
have
don't think so. I think people are submitting more than one, isn't that your impression?
And both of these are tied to different sort of high-level components of the strategic plan. So in my mind, they're both tackling very different and distinct things, but they should be given.
Well, I think it reflects sort of the philosophy of our strategic plan, which is we want to maintain this very sort of high level of academic rigor that attracts to the IB program, while at the same time, we need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students and being attentive to the ones that aren't getting it necessarily as quickly. All right, any other comments on the recovery seed fund proposal? Okay, can I get a motion to approve that for submission with the adjustments we've discussed?
And there's a clear understanding of what those adjustments are, right?
We're gonna add second semester, we're gonna fix the numbers. I think those were our big,
And, I mean, just a suggestion before you submit it is talk to as many people as you can, just to make sure. Because if I was the grant giver, I would be asking a lot of specific questions about how many kids is this gonna impact? And what's the track record of success? And those kinds of.
yeah, I think some of the questions, Pam, maybe using last year's data to indicate how many students we think might potentially be there, and making sure that number of teachers is the right number of teachers before we submit it. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second?
You made the motion.
Any other comments or discussion?
It's on, I can fix it. Thank
The
you.
only thing I would suggest is that, or request, I guess, is that you all just provide us with the updated versions before you submit them, so that it.
So you can email them out or Dropbox.
Yeah, so if they don't reflect, if somebody feels like it doesn't reflect our discussion, there's an opportunity to comment on that. We don't have time to see them again, convene and revote, but that way we have an opportunity to look at them and then express concerns if something doesn't reflect our discussion. Is that fair? Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any abstaining? All right. So back to our agenda. We talked about the bell schedule and the NYP evaluation process previously. Bruce and Pam, I can catch you up on the bell schedule. It's about the 60-second conversation after we adjourn. Why don't we move to the budget process? Dr. Shaw, would you like to share anything about that?
Sure. Well, it's as we get ready for the budget cycle, of course, it's new to me, but the process has changed slightly. More of it is online. What will happen here relatively soon is the district will share with us the amount of money basically that we're allocated for next year, the flexibilities that we have, and then what it's going to look like as far as timelines. So what I anticipate happening is once I get that information, is sitting down with the administrative team, leadership team, looking at last year's budget, looking at our needs, and then well within the timeline, because there is a timeline, the governance council has to approve it, putting that in an easy to read format, getting it to this committee, and looking at it and addressing any concerns with the timeline so that we can have it in on time. Like I said, one of the things that is new to me, coming new to this district, is there is a tremendous amount of flexibility, much more so than I'm used to. So it's a big learning curve for me as well, but there's a lot of people that have already explained it, helped with it, and I'm kind of looking forward to getting my hands in it and seeing that. So that's pretty much where we are. Don't have that email yet, but it's supposed to be coming pretty soon.
And so Pam is our budget and
Well, there you
finance
go.
chair, which I'm sure she's excited about that opportunity. We haven't really discussed the budget and finance committee, but we do need to have two other council members join her in that endeavor.
Any volunteers?
Maybe we'll talk about that next month when we have more people to recruit
Yeah,
from.
right. Or.
Yeah, we can
Those people
nominate,
that are not here.
nominate Joey and Jeffries.
The main incentive to come to the meeting.
Yeah.
A quick question about the budget. Are there any rumors, are you hearing anything, funding is stable, there's no
What I'm
pressure,
hearing is
you're gonna cut
that
stuff?
as far as per pupil allocation, I'm hearing we'll pretty much be the same. That's what I'm hearing. One of the things with the budget that you have to keep in mind is the budget is not real until the state legislature really gives us dollars and tax digest comes in. So sometimes when you're doing it early, which I appreciate, you are kind of playing with a little bit of monopoly money. But the governor has talked about increasing the amount of QB funding for individual systems. Now, what that's going to look like, obviously, I don't know, and that's not a decision I make. But based on what I've heard, everything's pretty much status quo. Yes, sir, your question.
Just one comment, and I don't know at what point in the process, but relative to budget and the comment that came up about the seed funding for remediation or whatever you'll call it. I think it warrants a meeting with PTSA, Foundation, the seed money component, and the school budget to determine the highest level of priorities, because I think that kind of program, you could get a lot of traction with foundation funding or even, raising funds to support programs like this. So I would like to see a holistic approach to the budget. I mean, you've got your budget to run the school, but then these extra things, whether it comes out of the school budget or whether the foundation wants to apply for some grants or fund it or whatever, I just, I vote for having those discussions as soon as possible.
Sure. And that's, yeah, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that more like a subcommittee kind of approach? I mean, we don't need the whole group to have all.
No, we don't need the whole group. I mean, that would be, we could ask, I don't know what protocol is relative to asking other people to participate in the finance committee, but that could be part of the finance committee.
I agree, I think we should absolutely do that. We could ask the PTSA treasurer and whoever would be the appropriate representative from the foundation to serve on that budget and finance committee along with a group of 3 from this group and
Okay.
look at it holistically. Because what tends to happen is we do the school budget and then afterwards we put PTSA and the foundation stand around and say, well, what should we do? And it would, you know,
That's a good point.
looking at it holistically would be ideal. All right, so we'll put that back on the agenda for our March meeting and get a little bit more tactical about how we're gonna make that work.
Okay.
And then the next item is the update on the Riverwood expansion/renovation process.
I think we have pretty much the same information. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say what I know and you can fill in. You know, I had a long conversation with Patrick Berg, you know, obviously who's, you know, the head of this training. And, you know, I mean, very positive and that we're moving forward. The next big step though is this charrette. And, I'm just proud to be able to finally pronounce it and understand what it is. And the process of hiring someone to be in charge of that process, who is a design architectural firm who ultimately will not be the design architectural firm that builds the building.
So have they hired that person?
You know, Patrick led me to believe that that was going to be approved at the last board meeting, but I haven't checked the minutes to see if it did. You know, anyway, the process is moving forward. Bird's Ferry is, he says, is still on schedule. We're still on schedule. Obviously, there's still the money issue of, you know, how much funding we're going to have. He talks in very excited terms about the opportunity and the leniency that he's been granted to create what he keeps calling a 21st century learning environment, a state-of-the-art facility for us. Does he admit that he's behind what he kind of committed to us when he made his presentation? Yes, he does. But he doesn't, he also says that we're not overall behind. I have some sympathy for Patrick because I know he's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And he puts in an amazing amount of hours, and he called me on his way home from some meeting at 8 o'clock at night, so. But, you know, at the end of the day, there aren't any real red flags, and we're still just trying to get to that charrette so that we can, that is the point where we will have input, and teachers will have input, and we'll be able to influence kind of what our school looks like. Is that about right?
That's about, you know, I talked to him on Saturday when I was at wrestling, and kind of the same thing, you know, we're not really off track, because my question is always, okay, we put out 2017, is that still a possibility? He said, absolutely, we still should be on track with that once we get the design firm to come in and lead the charrette process. And I also asked him specifically, because I think one of the things that I've heard from the community is, you know, how long is Hertz Ferry gonna sit there empty? That's not good for anybody. And he has continually said that we'll see some significant progress on the new site in the spring. He probably shared it with you as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They have lots of incentives to tear that building down as soon as it's vacant.
right.
So we still think the charrette or charretza will occur this semester?
That is what he told me is this
Yes,
spring.
I believe so.
Right.
And that's where it does kind of get exciting. You know, we'll be able to really get-
How do we determine who from the school represents the school community in a charrette process?
I don't know. Because it's about
that
150
okay.
people, is it not, that participates? I mean, it's a pretty big group.
Mhm.
I don't know how they're chosen.
My understanding was that because he asked me about, you know, getting the right mix of people there, and I said, I think we should be able to take anybody who comes and wants to participate. And
Sure.
he said, well, if you get past a certain number, it doesn't work well, and then I said, well, then let's have 2 of them. I mean,
Yeah.
do 2 then, if that's a problem you're worried about, but I think having an invitation list is gonna be a problem. You're
And,
looking-
yeah, and I think it is
That's it,
very
no?
important,
Okay.
the group, you know, the group that he picks, the design firm to lead it, because they're gonna bring so much to the table, and he's searching for a national, he says it will not be a local firm that has
Right.
built schools.
He
for
mentioned to
Fulton
me
County for a
about
long
dates,
time.
because we gotta fly him in, he said.
Right,
Oh,
right,
okay.
Right.
They're not driving.
So hopefully, they bring this view of what's working in Virginia, and what's working in Colorado, and what's working overseas places. And then combined with our local emphasis of what works for us, we'll do this.
Because when he explained it to me, it's not where you have one charrette for students and one charrette for grown-ups and
Right.
one charrette for, grown-ups who are teachers and grown-ups who are parents. You have one with all the different perspectives integrated into the same meeting.
And my recommendation would be, you want a variety of teachers. Obviously a science teacher may have a different perspective than other language teachers. And at the same time, we have so many talented parents, engineers, architects that
We have one that I know of
in
that
our
does schools.
Yeah, right.
Architect
So
does
He
schools.
was definitely one. Because sometimes, us parents, we can come up with great ideas, but they're not practical or.
Well, why don't we continue to pursue this, and hopefully we can bring back some more specifics next month. I know Dr. Shaw needs to get to another event, so we're at public comment unless anybody has anything else on the agenda. Dr. Square, are there speakers on the?
Yes.
Yes, there are, there too.
All right.
Of course, you know there are.
Oh, come on.
For here. Is it ready for us?
Yeah,
Start?
please.
Great, okay. I want to say that the Riverwood Recovery Program is amazing. That is the kind of thing I think that will make a huge difference in the children, the overall well-being, mental well-being of children, and any other programs, Dr. Shaw, that y'all know are out there that other schools are using from a parent perspective. That would be amazing for the school to be able to use, and I think that's the kind of thing that within the community would be so well received. So any of those kind of programs that are out there, just I think overall will be awesome. Second thing I wanted to bring up was the wondering if y'all were going to do some kind of notification of the community about the governance when y'all go through the voting at some point soon. Y'all will be looking at governance to have new governance members and all that stuff since everybody's terms are coming up. And it would be great if y'all did do some kind of public notice out to find people that want to do it, that are able to do it, that really can afford to give the time, because the parents have done it, not all, and y'all, the commitment that has been made is tremendous. And I don't think people really understand. I mean, see from today, since a lot of the parents weren't even here, none of them were here when the meeting started. I mean, y'all have to sacrifice so much to be on that, and truly to find people that can afford to do it, that are willing to do it, and that truly understand what it is, I think would be so valuable. And people that maybe the upcoming ninth grade parents that are willing, that want to get involved more in the school, would be great to get them out there. The other thing I wanted to suggest, if y'all could, when you're looking next year at the students, it would be great to get two from different grades, because this year, if you've had a 12th grade thing, both 12th graders have been gone. And their opinions and stuff have been so impactful. I really think might be more impactful next year to be able to make sure they can participate fully, to have them from stagnant grades, like one from 12th or one from 11th or 11th and 10th, whatever it is. Actually, I know the 12th grader will definitely be on it, but that one maybe from 11th or 10th, to be able to give you, again, more opinions that will hopefully be better for our school. Thank you.
All right, there's me. And I want to reiterate, the recovery program, I think, needs to be a priority for the school. My child has not needed any, but I know I'm friends with children who have. And to me, that should be the #1 priority, to make sure that all these children, like Dr. Shaw says, know this material. Not that they get an extra credit, sorry, Bruce. And because it's important, it's for our community. And I think that's what we're forgetting here. I mean, Dr. Kopka's program is exactly what I, put my child through, and what he's doing, I totally, support personally. But as a community, we need to make sure we have an educated base, and this is how we do it. This is this is the school's commitment to our community. And then Pam beat me to the whole let's bring everybody in the budget thing, because of course I'm coming from a corporate America with giant budgets, and I've been able to say, ooh, that department over there, can I borrow your funds for this? And I know that you can't always do that here, but I would really like to see, as a parent, that some of these programs that you want, that they're funded by the PTSA instead of some stuff that I personally don't think is as important. And the seed money, I think, is wonderful. I mean, personally, I'm sitting here going, my child really needs, you know, the AB block schedule. She needs more classes. I mean, this is what makes her excited. And I don't know if, I mean, you probably can't ask for seed money so you can do that, but gee whiz, that would be great if we could find some place to make recommendations. And if you could please, Martha or Dr. Shaw, let us know, the parents, and how we could support advocating for the block schedule thing like you had recommended, Martha, that would be great. So, thank you.
Alrighty. Is there any other business? I would like to ask if you could speak to the other Crystal and the one downtown.
Okay.
What's her last name? Clark?
Right, yes.
Find out when we will have information about the election process for the next council members. And maybe she could even come to the March meeting and tell us about that. Because it does seem, if we're gonna have people elected by the end of the school year, something should be happening. And we haven't heard anything. So if she could come and tell us what the plan is, I think that would be helpful.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Do you have time for one more comment?
Sure, yes.
And Mr. Blackwell, I don't know what the process is for requesting the seed money and writing the grants, but if we need any grant writing expertise added to the equation to increase our chances of getting the seed money, and it may be that we have the expertise, I don't know, but case in point, numbers of students served, all that's critical information in order to be successful. One, you know, there's one component of just asking, there's the other to increase our chances of getting it, so not to say I'm the one to give that advice, but I can maybe suggest some people that can.
So just quickly on that note, I think the issue is we have to turn them in on Tuesday. Yes, Wednesday, Tuesday? What do they do?
The
10th, does that ring it in my head?
the 10th or the 12th, one or the other.
But it's not that hard, to Pam's point, to go back and, honestly, we probably should have already done it, go back and just pull the number of kids who failed in that range to see how many were served. I mean, it's not gonna be exact, but it'll give us a ballpark number.
Well, if you all could make your best effort to get something back out to us by end of business tomorrow, then I can commit, and perhaps Pam could also, to give it a critical read from a funder perspective, and maybe give you some feedback. I mean, most of my comments were actually kind of aimed at that, but maybe give you some specific edits that might make it more compelling from a funder perspective, but we need to have them.
And are you asking that for both proposals, or just the one for the credit recovery?
I think both proposals. Again, not to change the concepts, but we might see opportunities where you could, because the people reading these are not going to be educators, in my understanding.
So I.
Oh, is that true? I thought it was.
Who are they gonna be?
I think it's
No,
the
I
foundation
wouldn't know.
board members.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so, let me put together some of what you said, and, you know, I honestly don't have a lot of experience writing this kind of stuff. Research, yeah, but this, no.
I think Pam makes a good point. There's definitely some things that you can do to sell yourself better, even if you have a great concept, so maybe we can.
I'll try to get
offer some insight.
this piece out to you, both of you tomorrow.
And actually, if you send it to the whole council, so other people might have ideas too. Okay. Anything else? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the water. No problem.
Welcome back.
Sorry,